Let's start with Jessica in Texas. She, her. Jessica is an ex-theist, and she is a therapist in the Bible Belt, it sounds like. So, Jessica, it sounds like you and Alice might have something to talk about, being ex-Christians and whatnot. Yeah, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm really excited. Thanks, Alice, for sharing some of your background, and I feel a lot more, at home with a similar story. Yeah, so I'm calling in because I really don't even have a question. I just need support. I am also in Texas, and I work with couples. I'm like helping them deal with like sex issues or infidelity, like really sensitive topics that Christianity has a lot of messages about. And so I notice as I'm deconstructing my own faith, like just being super triggered all the time with like how stark, like the misogyny, the like sexual shame that like women are taught to carry around. Yeah, the hierarchical nature of like what marriage is supposed to be, and like God's, fingers all up in growth process, I guess, in a way that actually kind of hinders me trying to do my job. And so I'm just wondering if I can get some, I don't know, like support, or it even just feels good calling in and hearing all that.
Well, yes. Hi, Jessica. I'm back. Hi, everybody. Fun times.
Hey, welcome.
This is thank you. I'm going to yell at my internet provider very soon because this is the second time I've had issues connecting online while the show is happening. So not great. Not a great look for this internet provider, but that's for another time. Let's talk about you, Jessica. So you are a sex therapist. I imagine like half of your clientele are like Christians or ex-Christians, right? I mean, like, what's the percentage there? I have to ask.
Yeah, it has to be, I kid you not, like 95% affluent white Christian Southerners.
Wow.
I'm a young Black queer therapist.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I figured it would be a pretty high percentage. I didn't realize it would be that high. But I mean, that makes sense, right? Because what other institution in America besides, like, I don't know, talking about like organized ideologies, right, where people grow up in communities where these things are the norms. It's one thing to kind of see things on TV and maybe internalize some stuff there, and I'm sure like that kind of happens, but it's another thing to be surrounded by parents, friends, elders, all in the community, also like putting these ideas in your head, right? Like, so for me growing up, like I remember the complementarianism was a big deal. My girlfriend in high school made me read Wild at Heart. I'm sure you're familiar with the book Wild at Heart, right, Jessica? Alice is nodding her head. Okay, so Wild at Heart, for those of you who aren't aware, is basically this whole book that says man has to be the big, strong hunter and provider for the family, and women can be these sort of dainty, sort of basically sidekicks is kind of what I would describe.
Yeah.
That they describe. And I remember even reading that at the time. I was like 17 or 18, thinking, this is kind of BS. Like, I don't want this. Like, I want an equal partnership in my life. And that was like kind of a big difference there, because she felt like these gender roles were very real, but it's just kind of this construct that's built up. So I imagine you deal with a lot of that in your line of work. And I sincerely hope that you can find good outlets besides, calling into this show, of course, to kind of like deal with that in your off time. Because I imagine working with that 8 hours a day can play a big toll on you, right?
Yeah, Jessica, have you heard of the Secular Therapy Project?
So I've heard it from ACA, just as I'm getting to know y'all.
Yeah, so the Secular Therapy Project is an amazing resource, both for you to potentially be on as a therapist who might provide secular help to others. But right now, it sounds like for the support you need for yourself too, because it's organized by Recovering from Religion. And Dr. Dale Ray is one of the founders of that. And they have a lot of support for therapists and people seeking therapists to talk about exactly these issues. And I can only imagine being in your shoes, deconstructing, questioning your own faith while also trying to help people who are not, maybe they're deconstructing themselves, maybe not, but the issues that they're presenting are understandably triggering to you. And that's got to, I'd imagine, make it a little bit cloudier to be able to do your job to the best of your ability while you're also trying to manage your own feelings that are coming up through hearing certain things. So I feel deeply sympathetic to you. And I guess I would just recommend, for more professional support, I really would encourage anyone to check out the Secular Therapy Project, because they've done a really good job at providing resources specifically for these things, a lot around sex and sexuality, shame, relationship dynamics, complementarianism, and just overall therapy. And I believe they have a free call-in number on Recovering from Religion if you just want to talk and learn more. I'm pretty sure it's free.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super therapied up. So I appreciate that. But I have my outside support just ethically, as you know, that's just part of the job. But I think I wanted to call in just to hear from other voices. I don't know, something about Christianity makes it's exactly what you were saying, Dan. It makes men internalize this sense of entitlement, or just kind of a warped view of what malehood is or coupleships are. And so by the time they come to my office, I feel almost like I'm I'm doing couples therapy, but also kind of a deconversion therapy. I don't even know,
deprogramming.
Right. Deprogramming. And just knowing the trauma symptoms that I see aren't just from what's happening in the marriage, but go all the way back to your fundamentalist parents, hammering into you, if you take your panties off, then you're a sinner. You know what I mean? Bathe with your jeans on. So I just want to, hear from y'all.
Yeah. I'll tell you some more about my life in growing up in that context, Jessica. First of all, I gotta say, Alice is so great with plugging the resources there. Holy shit, Alice, that was fantastic. But just a little bit more about me and my background, Jessica. I don't know if this is common knowledge. I'm not only a Boy Scout, I am an Eagle Scout. So I grew up my whole boyhood years in Boy Scouts and did that, which, as you know, is a Christian organization. A lot of people actually don't know that, I should say, but it was it very much a Christian organization. There's a reason why they always meet at churches and stuff. They do say that is their belief. They do offer people of other faiths to go in, but one of the things for your Eagle Scout Board of Review, which is how you become an Eagle Scout, is they ask you about your relationship with God and stuff. Some of the questions they ask are with your creator. But that's a side note. What I wanted to point out was, even in the context of groups like this, there were still these gender norms that were kind of put upon me about what it's meant for me to be a man in my community. I remember there was at least this one time where you had a bunch of dudes with their shirts off, chanting and going around a campfire, and I just remember looking at that being like, this is kind of weird. I don't know if I'm into that. I don't know if that what does that make me? And I remember thinking, oh man, am I gay because I don't relate to the other young men in my community? It's no, I just have different interests. It has nothing to do with my sexuality, nothing to do with who I'm attracted to. But there's another thing there, right, where it's oh, because I don't fit into the cultural norm of what it meant to be a man, that I must have been some sort of other. And that's how queer people in my community were kind of viewed as. It's kind of an othering sort of thing, right? You're either this one or the other. You kind of fulfill one of these roles. So a lot of stuff to break down there and figure out as I got older. Now, those of you who see me, I talk about this. I'm a pretty big dude. I'm 6'5". I never had issues with people, not really people like physically bullying me. Nobody ever really questioned me as a person. Are you big enough? Are you tough enough? But again, my interests were kind of different. I was a little bit more nerdy. I wasn't into sports too much. And that in Texas, especially if you're not like into football, like you're kind of an outsider there. So yeah, there's a lot of like experiences with my gender norms and like how I was supposed to view myself in that light that tie into Christianity inherently, because it was just part of the culture that I grew up with. Like you can argue that some of these forces are secular, but I would say that like if you ask people what are the root reasons why you believe that these norms exist, that these roles exist for men and women, they're going to point to verses in the Bible. Like if you ask the people in my community why they put this stuff up, like that's the source. That's where they're getting it from ultimately. So that's a lot about me, Jessica. I know you wanted to hear some other perspectives, but there you go. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Dan. That for me is the part that I carry home with me like the most heavy on my shoulders. Like there's just so much more that you can be outside of the constraints of religion. Like there's just so much more that's true outside of, what I was taught and what my, sounds like y'all were taught and my clients were taught. And so there's these whole parts of yourself that are just caged away. Like it drives me crazy. And here I am trying to like free the psyche, whatever that means. But, there are all these like defenses that are baked in from, the time you come out of the womb. Like they're praying over you. They're, buying you a little Bible. They're dressing you up for, Easter. And just never having a chance to be more than what you are is really depressing sometimes.
That's such a great way to put it. And it follows you into adulthood, obviously, too, right? And like I got the you can't see it because I got these over the ear headphones, but I got this ear piercing. Was it last year now? I can't. Yeah, last year. Has it been that long? Anyway, my mother was furious when she found out I got this, and I kid you not, she said exactly. Men do not. I do not like it when men wear piercings. I don't think men should have jewelry. Period, is what she told me. And even though she's fine with the jewelry she wears, she just specifically has this thing where men should not do it as like a normative thing, which of course is only applied to a very Western idea of history. First of all, I don't even think that's completely true, because I believe people in older times that were men also did in our cultures, but of course worldwide that's not true. Of course there's all kinds of differences there, but where does this construct come from? Well, it comes from the pulpit. It comes from preachers and people who are saying that men are supposed to be this way, women are supposed to be this other way, and that's just how it is. That's how God intended it. And now I like playing with that a little bit. That's one reason why I chose to get it. The other thing I chose to get it is because I thought it was cool looking, and I don't have to justify myself. But in Christianity, you kind of do. You kind of have to work with those constructs, which is why it's so difficult it's why people are seeing you, Jessica. It's why they have to kind of figure out how to break that down. I know that like I said, I had to work on that for myself when I was, breaking out of Christianity. So I applaud you for doing the work that you do, because obviously it is hard and is difficult, and it obviously makes you self-reflect, but you're very brave for doing it, and there needs to be more people like you in the world for doing it. So thank you so much for the work that you do in that regard.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for taking my call. Do not tell your mom that some men have vaginas. It will blow her mind.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah.
2022.
I haven't even gone there with her, but yeah, I know that's.
I did with my mom recently. I was explaining the difference between cis and trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't even go into it, but one step at a time, right? One step at a time. It starts with the ear piercings,
starting like a couple hundred
and then
yards.
It goes into
line.
Yeah. But anyway, hey Jessica, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate your call. Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you so much.
What a fantastic way to start the show. What did you think about that, Alice?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so sympathetic. I also couldn't help thinking of this mini series I've been watching on Hulu called Under the Banner of Heaven, with Andrew Garfield, where he plays a Mormon LDS police detective investigating a crime that ends up having a lot of fundamentalist FLDS Mormon components to it. And he just has this total unraveling of his own faith as he's trying to solve a faith-based crime.
Whoa.
So that's what her story reminded me of, like being the therapist, giving therapy for people who are also like, she's deconstructing while she's trying to help people, where she can see the religion is the source of a lot of these problems. So it made me think of that.
I didn't know that was a thing. I need to look into that now. That sounds really cool.
It's based off of a true story. John Krakauer wrote a book about it. But yeah, it's based off of a true crime story that took place in the 80s, a grisly murder.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to look into that now. I'm going to add that. I'm literally typing it in as I'm talking here. Sorry. I just want to make sure I have a tab open for later. So that's really cool.